Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Neeraj Arora. I'm at UW-Madison. This is joint work with Ishita, and she's a colleague, and then Yohei, he's a very bright PhD student. We've seen some fantastic sort of use cases yesterday, some today for AI. Thank you, for Wharton, for putting this together. I love focused conferences. This is very focused and interdisciplinary, so grateful to be here. I'm going to talk about how AI applies to marketing research. It's an area that's pretty close to my heart. It's something I used to teach. And when all this AI craziness happened, the first thought that crossed my mind is, I think marketing research is about to get disrupted. And so like, why don't I write a paper on that? And then so that's what we did. And that's what I'm going to present. Not all of you are marketing folks. So just like a quick overview of what marketing research pipeline looks like. You start with a problem definition. Then you go down the path of what research approach you want to use, exploratory, descriptive, causal kind of paths, sometimes all of them. And then you design a study, select a sample, collect data, and then analyze it. That's a typical pipeline for marketing research. And then you can start thinking about that. Each of those stages is, I think, ripe for disruption. And if you look at any traditional marketing research book, this happened to be a book that I read as an MBA student, and it's like its 12th edition right now. All books have this basic broad framework. And so what I'm going to try to convince you today is each of those stages within marketing research is about to be disrupted in the industry. It is already happening. And then these textbooks are going to be rewritten to a great degree. So let's kind of dive into this. As I alluded a second ago, the kinds of things we will look at in this paper are how LLMs could be used for qualitative and quantitative. When I use the word qualitative, for non-marketing people, that's unstructured data. So it's unstructured, and quantitative is structured data. And study the possible role of LLMs in recruiting respondents, collecting data, analysis, all that stuff. And then I'll focus both on the qualitative, the unstructured, and the quantitative side of the shop. There's a bunch of good work already happening in this. This is new area. This is an incomplete list. These are the papers that we happen to like a ton, and we included those in the paper. I'm not going to talk about each one of those, but the two things I want to sort of highlight here are, one, this paper is more about qualitative. That's sort of the unique aspect of this paper, the unstructured data. And then the other is incorporating context. You'll see both those elements that are core of this paper. And I thought I would just highlight this. The paper, since we applied for this conference, submitted for this conference, and today has already been accepted. So I apologize. I'm presenting a paper that's already accepted, which you could read, right? But my goal today is going to be to just highlight the big things that within the 20 minutes that I have. How are we doing on time? Are we, so I have 15 plus 5? Is that? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and we're down to just.
Okay, perfect. All right, so in terms of the overall, what we do empirically, which I'll try to focus on more, we have two studies. The first study is qualitative in nature. Second is quantitative in nature. We collaborate with a Fortune 500 company. And so we actually, these studies were actually done. Then we're going to use that as ground truth and then try to replicate those studies with LLMs. So that's sort of the big picture characterization of this. We partnered with a fantastic vendor that actually did the studies for this Fortune 500 company. And so very regular conversations with this company. And it gave us an insight into how the industry is really changing. It really is. It really is fundamentally getting disrupted. So we compare and contrast LLM-based approaches to human approaches. We look at the entire pipeline for marketing research. I'm not going to show this today, but in the paper, we sort of delivered 2 roadmaps for a company in the qual space or in the quant space. If you're doing a survey, for example, if you're doing anything qualitative, we develop a roadmap that serves as a guideline for how we think you should be moving forward in doing marketing research in the quant space. So first study is something that pertains to Friendsgiving. Friendsgiving is sort of a variant of Thanksgiving, where folks who are not around their families, for example, around Thanksgiving, they get together, friends together, and they can celebrate that. So the reason this company was interested in learning more about this is they have a very strong play in the Thanksgiving space. They have many products, and that's why they're doing very, very well. But this is clearly relevant to them, and they want to learn more about it. So one of the research that I'm going to focus on is this what's called online in-depth interview. Just talk to customers pretty deeply, and then glean insights, and then try to deliver products around that. Typically, the way the product, the sort of approach in marketing research looks like, I would say yesterday, is their qual stuff happens first, and then you get some deep insights, and then you follow that up with more broader quant research that generalizes to the broader population. That sort of sequential in nature. You will see that is fundamentally getting changed. Before I end, that's one point I would like to emphasize. So within this qual space, what we already have is this, right? This was actually done by the company. So what now we are doing here is we have various versions of LLMs, 4 actually. And they, for example, could be something as simple as, let's generate synthetic respondents that look exactly like, from a persona standpoint, look exactly like the real people. That's one version of it. Another is we actually generate respondents who were not even in the original study. These are very different people, which the LLMs tell us, like, these will be useful people to talk to, but then we generate those data. That's another version. Another thing we do is we have the LLM self-moderate. So LLM gives an answer to a question that's asked of it, but then we also evaluate it. Was it a good answer? If it was it a deep enough answer? If not, we probe the LLM to ask a follow-up question, and then it answers itself. So it's kind of a very cool thing. The basic structure looks, I'm not going to go into details, but we had to create a pipeline for how we will actually generate these respondents. And we do. I'm not going to talk about it. The paper talks about this. Generating respondents is pretty straightforward. You give it a persona, and then have it give an answer. So for example, this person was actually, Scott was actually a person that the company talked to, but now we simulate Scott through an LLM. And then this I already talked about. The moderation idea is you ask a question, you get an answer, then we ask the LLM to score it. We ask the LLM to score it on relevancy, depth, clarity, insightfulness, and give it an arbitrary threshold we give it arbitrary threshold 80. If it's below that number, then we tell the LLM, ask a follow-up question, and it does, and then you get another answer, and now the threshold is met. Then we have a satisfactory answer. So that's sort of the nature of the data. We evaluate these data on a variety of metrics, and I'm just going to go into those metrics instead of listing those. So the main takeaways are, what we find is the data that the LLMs generate are deeper and more insightful, pretty much across the board, compared to human answers that the company actually had. The other sort of interesting aspect of these data that the LLMs generate are, not only do they, so here a dot is a human and a plus is synthetic data. So any overlap is good, right? You're recovering the truth. But anything that's outside here, this is synthetic only, this is humans only. So this is basically saying that you are getting insights that the humans did not give, and you're getting insights that the LLMs did not give. So the big story here is complementarity, that when you use both, you get something over and above just the humans alone. So we need both. That's sort of the big story here. We had humans evaluate these data, and we find, again, deeper, more insightful. And then humans, these are regular humans on Prolific, are not experts. We followed up this study with a small number of experts, and what we found was well, a couple of things. One, we already have this human data and LLM generated data, right? So we already have that. But we took it to the next step. You had either humans analyze it or the LLM analyze it. And then we had these summaries that the humans or the LLM generated. Typically, the way this analysis goes is humans highlight, like if you can imagine a highlighter, what did these people say? What are the themes? So it's very labor intensive and very sort of, these folks are experts. This is all they do, right? So we kind of replicated that with the LLM, and then we had people with 15 to 20 years of experience evaluate both LLM answers and the human answers. So these were like these expert judges. The main takeaways we have are LLMs as analysts are comparable to humans, which is sort of a big takeaway. I'll kind of reiterate, this is a very labor-intensive process. These folks are experts. These experts actually did not like the findings that we have in this paper. There's A, deep skepticism, and B, they think it's like their work is sacred, like it's very powerful, and then they have very unique insights to bring. But the evidence seems to suggest that, LLMs do well. They do pretty well in this space. The other couple of things to highlight here are that these experts always felt like this human LLM combo is always better than human only or LLM only combo. So that's this which sort of dictated the title of this paper, that human LLMs are like collaborators, and then they'll do better than just human alone or LLM alone. So the basic story is a hybrid story, and that they bring complementary insights to the table. On the quant side, I'm going to kind of zip through this. This is the second study where we did something similar, but this time the data it's actually a survey, right? 600 survey, and the context was refrigerated dog food. This product's already on the market, and what we were trying to do is kind of do a counterfactual, essentially. What if LLM had done this instead of real people? And then the big sort of takeaways, in the interest of time, I'm just going to highlight the big takeaways. The big takeaways are, we look at things like, are the averages for different questions, are they the same? Are variances the same? Meaning, are the answers heterogeneous enough? And are the answers internally consistent? And the main findings are that there's bias in the answers. The answers that the LLMs generate, typically what you'll find is like this. If this is actual and this is human, there's always this gap in the means. The second big finding is that this is shrunk. The heterogeneity is shrunk, but we can overcome that. We can overcome that by using RAG, by using in-context learning. The paper goes into more detail. So compound AI models that Shiv just talked about it. This is an example of a compound AI model. And it does better on recovering heterogeneity. It does better on recovering internal consistency of the answers, more human-like. The paper goes in great detail of that. So kind of across the two studies, what do we learn? I personally see great promise in marketing research, both on the qual side and on the quant side, a bit more on the qual side. And also certainly on the quant side. And I think it's fair to say LLMs are relatively inexpensive. They don't get tired. So it's very quick way to generate prior information in a cost-effective manner, and that's sort of what this paper tries to show. As we wrote this paper, I had the fortune of talking to a bunch of different companies, and then here's some that I love their work. These are disruptive folks, and a couple of things to sort of think. A couple of things to sort of highlight here. One, the traditional model of qual first, quant second, kind of sequential, that is breaking now. You can now do a marketing research at scale that both qual and quant. You talk to a bunch of different people, like a lot of different people, and then analyze those data. Unstructured data is very easy to analyze with Gen AI, and the textbooks are going to be rewritten to some degree, and the companies that I've been able to talk to, they are reorganizing their whole shop essentially, especially the vendors, to kind of incorporate this very efficient way to do marketing research. I want to stop here and take questions. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys. Paper the guys presentation. I have some question about how to get these scores. Did you use the API metadata or use the prompt to get the win?
We use the API.
API.
Yep. Yeah.
So when you replicate with the same data set, the scores are consistent for every trial, right?
Scores are similar. So, for example, here, this is just one question. You find that this is a 1 to 5 scale, and there's a bit of bias here between LLM. So these are just the averages, but this is just the base model, and then within the base model, you'll see like LLMs tend to be like super confident, just give the same answer many times. But when you incorporate these compound AI models like RAG and in context learning, that distribution spreads out a little bit. It becomes more realistic. Yep. Yashin?
Yeah, I really like the argument that like you just talked about this better that like you should. But here's like when you were like referring to LLM, it's either as a human design some prompt and doing some prompt engineering, the LLM was actually a human LLM collaboration setting where just code or just an LLM.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Ethan Malik would say it's like certainly you could use you as a prompt engineer doing, but my limited experience in that space is you can have the LLM guide you with better prompts too, right? So, yeah.
So you showed the style deviation in the entropy of and it's probably because the synthetic data aren't having enough entropy, right? So there's this billion persona data set that you can use to actually simulate different personas, and think that is part of the norm to the LLM to say, give me this answer as if you were a teacher.
Yeah.
Have you tried doing that?
That's exactly what we do. So 600 people that the company surveyed, we used their part of their demographic kind of information. So we have 600 personas. So we generated 600 times. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it turns out that in the foundation model, if I give her persona and your persona, the answers are similar in the foundation model. But when you bring in RAG and then bring in like outside sources of information, which the company had already collected, then I start seeing separation. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's an observation. I think whatever you said in your paper, like, oh, you're a real IRD anymore, right?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't follow the IRD.
Just observation.
Yeah.
Which means you don't have to deal with IRD.
Yeah.
What you write.
Clarification of question. On the clarification stuff, the first study that you showed, was that just using the API and they'll fine tune and go RAG?
Yeah, so I kind of rushed through this, I apologize. And so this is the base model. And qual is there's base model, yeah.
So it's just off the shelf, OpenAI.
Yep.
Do you think it get better if you kind of fine tune RAG?
Yeah. I would guess so. If I was to extrapolate from here onto the qual side, I think it would. And if you think about the way companies operate, is it's not like they do this one study and that's all they do. There's like wealth of like ocean of the other data that's relevant to that study that they could leverage to.
That was kind of the question I had, because I noticed you had LLM 1, 2, 4.
Yeah.
And I was curious about like what LLM 5 would be, like every
Yeah.
stage LLM rather than a human kicking it off.
Yeah.
If I have that I've got the item tapping it over
Yeah.
years of studies, but by it, could there be a condition where I have very little kind of kick-off flying person, and
Yeah.
I just have an army of agents?
Yeah, and I think, so you could, theoretically you could, but the reason I would not do it is there is deep resistance to just using plain synthetic data by clients. Clients want to talk to humans, right? And then this is a good way to start beginning to think about this, but I don't think they would just go from the entire pipeline to be synthetic, would be my conjecture.
Fascinating. I'm sure we can talk offline
Yeah.
later. Thank you.